Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now today I'm going to be straight up here. This is going to be a completely different type of video, no heavy editing or anything like that, and it's going to be more of me as a person than it is a content creator. Now I've done a couple of these videos so far this year, and I do find them as a really nice way to actually relate to you guys on a personal level, as well as actually, kind of sound off. So to cut a long story short, 2025 has been a bit of a rough year, and I say that kind of lightly. Now, if you've been around on this channel for a while or you're a regular viewer, you'll probably know that at the end of 2024, going into 2025, I ended up going through loads of tests for cancer in my lymph nodes. Thankfully, I got the all clear on that, I believe finally around about May time now. I can't quite fully remember, but as that started to calm down, I had the unfortunate situation that my partner had a miscarriage. Once again, unfortunately, this has been a long-running occurrence. She's been trying to get all the checks done and stuff like that to really get to the bottom of it. It was a very, very stressful situation overall. So 2025, definitely an incredibly rough year to begin with. But of course, it came towards the middle of the year and things started to kind of settle down a bit. And thankfully, I was able to actually start making content on the regular once again and actually enjoy it for the first time in a long time. However, those of you that are regular viewers of this channel have probably noticed in July I've been rather quite absent once again. So I'm going to take this video as a chance to kind of explain what's been going on. And of course, you guys get to know me on a more personal level and vice versa, because a lot of you guys seem to open up in these videos, and it's genuinely really nice for everybody just to sort of sound off and get any issues out there. Honestly, being straight up here, if it wasn't for you guys this year kind of pick me up and motivating me to just carry on doing what I do, I honestly don't think I would still be doing this YouTube thing. You guys have been absolutely incredible this year, really kind of getting me through those harder times by being so open and honest about your own experiences with things such as like cancer and stuff like that, and of course the loss of a child and stuff, to make me realize that it's not just me out there suffering with this. It really is incredible. So anyway, that's all in the past. I thought I kind of moved from that. So let's talk about what's happened in July. So to begin with, I set myself the goal that every single day from July 1st to July 31st this month, I would upload one main video and one short at least every single day. Now, that might sound like a lot of workload, but honestly, it keeps me motivated. And when my motivation is high for YouTube, like it was at the beginning of July, it's really not that difficult, especially when I'm enjoying doing what I do. Unfortunately, though, when it came to the first weekend in July, those plans really got put on the back burner. Now, I'm a huge animal lover. I've been brought up around animals. I've always had a pet or an animal around me, and the first animal I ever properly had since living on my own was called Casper. Now, if you've probably guessed it already, he was named after Casper the Friendly Ghost. He was bright white, an absolutely amazing guy. He was a rescue cat that myself and my partner rescued many years ago. He had plenty of issues when we sort of adopted him. He originally had gingivitis, so he had tooth loss, and unfortunately it was leading to many complications. We eventually got that treated and got him through that, and then only a year later he was diagnosed with diabetes in a cat, which is just quite strange. I didn't know that feline diabetes was a thing, but it turns out it was. So unfortunately, the only option there was to go for 2 injections a day, of course, to keep his blood sugars and that going, and eventually we got that into remission. So whilst of course he had all these health issues, he was still living a very nice day-to-day life. Again, he wasn't the youngest kind of pet or cat overall. He was quite old when we got him, and unfortunately he was getting no younger. And unfortunately, that first weekend in July he became very ill. Unfortunately, his liver began to fail, and if you know, when it comes to animals, it's an incredibly horrific thing to see. Unfortunately, there was no out of hours vets or anything around where I live, so unfortunately it was a case of just keeping him comfy, and then on the Monday, unfortunately having to make the decision to put him to rest once and for all, because, he'd been an absolute trooper. He'd got for everything. He'd been the best pet that anybody could ask for. Such a, fun-loving, amazing guy that's kind of, got everybody through thick and thin. Everybody absolutely loved him, but unfortunately, in the end, he did end up having to be put to sleep. And unfortunately, that really did rock my boat, because, again, animals become part of your family, especially when they've been around for years, and it can really upset things. So unfortunately, that kind of wiped out the first couple of weeks of July. However, I did eventually feel that I was getting ready to return to, making content and, just doing the things that I'd usually do. All the dust settled, I kind of, sorted everything out that I needed to. And then unfortunately, I did get a phone call that my only remaining grandparent, my grandma, was incredibly ill. She'd caught the latest strain of COVID, and it made her seriously ill. I mean, she's in her 80s, so you can imagine things like that really do take a beating, and honestly, it made an absolute mess of her. Now, thankfully, I do live quite local to her. I'm one of the sort of closest family members that she's got in terms of distance and the kind of relationship we have. So I was just trying to make sure she could be as comfortable as possible, and that if she needed anything, she knows where to turn to. But unfortunately, because of having COVID and such, it's something that you've got to be incredibly wary of. Of course, my day job, I do work in healthcare, so one thing I'm trying not to be exposed to is something like COVID, where I can then pass it around. And of course, again, if I'm looking after people that are a lot more unhealthy than I am, then it can really affect those. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to, in that moment, actually be around her too much, because of course she doesn't want to spread it, she doesn't want it to go into other people, but it was an incredibly worrying time. It made her seriously ill, and even now she's not 100% recovered, and who knows, she might never be. But again, it kind of just went from one thing to another, and again, that took up a lot of my time. Thankfully, I did at that moment find at least a few days really to make a couple of bits of content, mainly around the latest update. But unfortunately, once again, I did have to kind of put a pause on that, kind of once I've done the usual thing on the channel, and again, just kind of be there to make sure she's okay, make sure the rest of my family's okay once the initial COVID thing had cleared up, if that makes sense. So once she was clear from COVID, I was able to kind of go over and make sure if she needs anything, I'm there, sort of thing. So unfortunately, yeah, it's been an incredibly tough month once again. I feel like 2025 so far this year has just been absolutely horrific, and it's just never ending, with kind of little periods of things getting hopeful and starting to enjoy things again, and then all of a sudden it gets shut down. So I just kind of wanted to explain where I've been. And of course, these kind of videos, again, like I mentioned, just give me time to kind of sit back, relax, and just sound off about everything that's gone wrong. But in terms of where we're going with the future of this channel, I do have a lot of content planned out. Unfortunately, a lot that was already pre-planned for July is completely irrelevant now. Mainly stuff around new features, the update and stuff. Other people have probably covered it by now, so they're completely useless. So I'm currently in the planning stage to kind of work out what content I'm doing, cover some of the more up-to-date racing games that are coming out. Again, it's going to be a pretty big end to the year in terms of the racing genre, so I'm getting incredibly geared up for all of that. Again, I do plan to continue the Gran Turismo stuff. At the end of the day, that's what I began with, and of course, for all its issues with GT7, I still love the Gran Turismo series, and I still have a lot of content planned with that. But there will be newer racing games involved there. I don't want to kind of give away too much, but there'll be kind of your typical sim racing stuff. There'll be some arcade races in there, pretty much everything in the racing genre, since I love everything to do with racing games. It's kind of always been a passion for me, and hopefully I can bring that across to you guys. So yes, regular content will be returning. I've been trying to plan my return for tomorrow, which is of course the beginning of a new month, and hopefully we can get the motivation going there. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of make this video just to sound off to you guys and update you guys on kind of where I've been, and the fact that no, I'm not disappearing off the face of the earth or anything. So yeah, thank you so much for your continued support, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.